You know, niggas gotta get their priorities together. Got their mind on the wrong things, spending their money in the wrong way.
Trapaholics, real trap shit.
Say you need that car with the rims and that charm, just like Jim. It's more than life. Yeah.
I'm telling you. Talk to him.
Say you need that LV bag
For what?
with the belt and the hat.
That's all you got though.
It's more than life. Yeah.
Talk to him. Real.
Say you wanna turn up at the club,
Why?
buy some bottles, impress them girls.
what?
It's more than life.
Oh, fucking everybody.
Yeah.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast and Who Dat. And I'm Ethan. And is this the Saints' last opportunity to make the playoffs, get back in the fold? It seems like every week this is the last chance. This is the last chance to get back in the fold, get back in the mix. If they don't win this game, then they can't make the playoffs. But it seems like they keep getting a second chance, a third chance, fourth, fifth chance, and it just seems like the season isn't over. It's not time to start looking into the off season. It's not time to start looking at mock draft because they're still in this thing. If they win this game, they'll be right back in the fold. They'll be just a half game back of the Buccaneers. If the Falcons lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers, they'll be tied with the Falcons and have the tiebreaker over them. So the Saints don't play until Monday, and you'll be able to hate watch the Panthers and hate watch the Falcons, and hopefully Pittsburgh can knock the Falcons off, and hopefully the Saints can get that win, be tied up with them, and just a half game back of the Buccaneers. And man, that would just be just amazing, comical that the Saints, even at this point in the season, with only 5 wins, could just still be in this. So let's go over the Saints injury report and some of the Buccaneers team stats, so we'll kind of know who to watch out for on this Sunday night game. It seemed like a lot before the season started, and when the schedule first came out, a lot of people were upset, saying, "Oh, well, Drew Brees, Sean Payton are gone now. The Saints don't have any primetime games anymore." People were used to the Saints always having 5, 6 primetime games, always playing on Thanksgiving or Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. But the same, even with Sean Payton and Drew Brees gone, I mean, they still had 3 primetime games this year. They played Arizona on Thursday night. They played Baltimore on Monday night, and then I guess this is their last primetime game, which is on Monday night against the Buccaneers. And they still haven't set a date, a time, I guess, for the Falcons game. I'm trying to think if that's like in week 16 or 15. They haven't set a date for that, so I guess they could still make that a later date. They could still change that to maybe a Sunday night game or a doubleheader Sunday night game, I guess. If say both the Falcons and the Saints are still fighting for a playoff position, playoff rankings, I guess, which I wouldn't be surprised if they did something like that. But anyways, let's get into some of the injury report of the Saints. So can I get a menu? And so first player we have on here is Josh Andrews, center guard with an ankle, and he was limited on Thursday, full the rest of the week, and has no game status. And then we have safety JT Gray with a hamstring, didn't practice all week, listed as out, game status out. Running back Mark Ingram with a foot, limited Thursday, full the rest of the week, no game designation. And this is a new one, and don't really remember him going down in the game, but this is disappointing because been praising him like the last 2 weeks for the yards and his touchdowns, even though kind of called some of them garbage time touchdowns, but he seemed to be really coming on. Seems like when you just start praising someone, that's when they get hurt or something happens to them. They either get hurt or they get in some kind of legal trouble. But of course, tight end Juwan Johnson is on the injury report now with an ankle, and he didn't practice all week and is out. So that's disappointing, a little upsetting. Then we have wide receiver Jarvis Landry with an ankle. He'll probably be on the injury report the rest of the year with that ankle injury. I think he said that he had ligament damage or something of that nature. Then we have a cornerback Marshawn Lattimore, abdomen limited all week and questionable. I'm pretty sure he was limited all week last year, or not last year, but last week, and was questionable and didn't play. So it'll be interesting to see if he plays. And I think Dennis Allen mentioned in his press conference on Saturday that he might play. So wouldn't be surprised if he didn't play. And Ramczyk, tackle listed as rest, was limited on Thursday and then full the rest of the week, and then no game designation. And then Malcolm Roach, illness, didn't practice on Wednesday. Thursday, Friday, and then was limited on Saturday, listed as questionable. And Bradley Roby, disappointing that he was just coming back from his ankle injury off of IR, and then he gets a concussion in the game against the 49ers. And then he didn't practice on Thursday, Friday, and then was limited on Saturday and was listed as questionable. I would be very surprised if he comes back after 1 week off of concussion. You used to see that a lot, but after all the CTE stuff, that rarely ever happens anymore. Rashid Shaheed has a back injury, was limited all week, no game time designation. Kentavious Street, illness, did not practice all week, is listed as questionable. There's quite a few players on this list that are listed out or listed did not practice with illnesses. Peyton Turner, ankle, did not practice all week, is listed as out. Pete Warner was back at practice this week. He was limited all week and was listed as questionable. It seems like that was a while back when he got hurt. I think that was in the Ravens game that he went down with that ankle injury and got surgery on his ankle. That doesn't seem like that was already 4 weeks ago. So that'd be interesting if he actually gets activated for Sunday's game and comes back and plays, even though, man, that 4 weeks there, seems like that's flown by. Seems like he was trying to come back and get his job back before he can't get it back from Caden Ellis, because Caden Ellis has been playing so well. He's afraid he's going to maybe lose his job to injury when That seemed kind of like an unwritten rule there. Let's see if he ends up being the next Jameis Winston, losing his job to injury. And then here's another illness. Kevin White, illness, did not practice Thursday, Friday, and then was limited on Saturday, listed as questionable. And then PJ Williams, still dealing with that knee, did not practice all week and is listed as out. That's a long injury list there, but only 4 players actually listed as out. JT Gray, Juwan Johnson, Peyton Turner, and PJ Williams. But man, that is still a long list, and probably I wouldn't be surprised if half of those players that are listed as questionable don't play either. So on to the Buccaneers injury list, and it's pretty comparable. It's really long, and there's players listed as doubtful, and there's some that are listed as questionable that probably won't play either. So we'll go over it real quick and give my thoughts on it as well. Tight end Cameron Brate, dealing with an illness as well, did not practice Thursday, Friday, was full on Saturday, listed as questionable. Safety Mike Edwards, hamstring, did not practice all week, listed as doubtful. Vita Vea, defensive tackle, dealing with a foot, did not practice Thursday, limited. Went Friday, limited, full on Saturday, listed as questionable. Safety Antonio Winfield, dealing with an ankle, did not practice all week, listed as doubtful. Right tackle, it has him listed as a tight end on here, but he's a right tackle. Tristan Wirfs, ankle, dealing with an ankle and a knee, did not practice all week, listed as out. Wide receiver Russell Gage, dealing with a hamstring, listed limited on Thursday and Friday, full on Saturday, listed as questionable. Guard Luke Godek, dealing with a foot, limited on Thursday, full the rest of the week, listed as questionable. Cornerbacks Sean Murphy Bunting, dealing with a quadricep, limited all week, listed as doubtful. Leonard Fournette, dealing with a hip, full all week, listed as questionable. Nick Levert, guard, dealing with a shoulder, full all week, no designation. And then Tom Brady, rest, practiced on Thursday, didn't practice on Friday, and full on Saturday. Mike Evans, rest, didn't practice on Thursday, or practiced on Thursday, didn't practice on Friday, full on Saturday. Akeem Hicks, defensive line, didn't practice on Thursday, or practiced on Thursday, didn't practice on Friday, limited on Saturday, listed as questionable. Julio Jones, rest, practiced on Thursday, didn't practice on Friday, full on Saturday, no injury designation. Lavonte David, practiced on Thursday, practiced on Friday, didn't practice on Saturday, listed as no injury designation. So they have a really long injury list as well. But the big thing about their injury list is like almost their entire starting secondary is listed as out or doubtful. So that's Mike Edwards is like their starting safety, one of their starting safeties. Antonio Winfield is their starting safety, and they're both listed as doubtful. And then Sean Murphy Bunting is one of their starting corners, and he's listed as doubtful as well. And then you have their starting right tackle, or as it says here, their starting tight end. But honestly, being honest, their starting right tackle, who's like a Pro Bowl, all pro player, Tristan Wirfs, is listed as out. Didn't practice all week. Had a pretty serious ankle knee injury in that game against Cleveland. Is listed as out, and that happened like late in that game, so that was pretty unlucky. So he's out, so that's big. Seeing how supposedly the Saints lead the league in sacks since week 3, and the Saints have done a really good job in the history of getting after Tom Brady and sacking him and disrupting him. So now he's going to be missing arguably their best offensive lineman for this game. Like the Saints didn't do bad in week 2 against the Buccaneers in that game, and harassing and containing Tom Brady. I mean, they probably should have won that game if it wouldn't have been for the fallout between Marshawn Lattimore and Mike Evans. They probably would have beat them. They held them to 3 points for almost the entire game till the bottom just fell out. So I think that's probably big time. I'd be surprised if that doesn't lead to Tom Brady getting harassed in this game. So, yeah, so those are some interesting injury reports. So now let's go on to some of the Buccaneers team stats here. See what it kind of what some players to kind of look out for, and see if they're playing as well as they had in previous seasons and how they kind of match up to some of the teams the Saints have played in recent weeks. Because man, the teams the Saints have played in recent weeks have been pretty underwhelming. The Pittsburgh Steelers and the Los Angeles Rams, their stats have been very mediocre in compared to probably the Buccaneers, what I'm about to read off here. But anyways, Tom Brady, who has played in this is 11 games. I guess they've had a bye week, which the Saints will finally have one after this game. He's completed 31 of 470 passes, and that's for a 66.2 completion rate, and that's for 3,051 yards for a 6.5 average, a 51-yard long, 14 touchdowns, only 2 interceptions, been sacked 17 times, and with a quarterback rating of 92.4. So I mean, he's having a good year, but not as good as the previous 2 seasons. Because I mean, his touchdown numbers are down. Like he's not on pace to be in like the high 30s. He's not on pace to have like 30 touchdowns like he has had in the previous couple of years, and his quarterback rating isn't in like the hundreds, and he's not completing like close to 70% of his passes like he has the last couple of years. But he's still having a really good season. I mean, I would, a lot of people in the NFC South, like fans of NFC South teams and fans of other teams, hate Tom Brady, but I'd be more than happy to have him be the quarterback of the Saints right now. Definitely with those numbers. He's still having, for a 45-year-old quarterback, he's still having an amazing season. Probably, there's some great young quarterbacks in the league right now, but he's probably having a fringe Pro Bowl season still. So their rushing stats that's probably really why the Buccaneers are struggling compared to their past seasons, is because they're not able to run the ball. And that kind of is pretty much the same thing with the Saints. If they can't run the ball in the games that they play in, like that's a straight compare and contrast for Saints games as well. Like the games that their offense looks effective is only in games where they can run the ball. And I think that's probably the same issue the Buccaneers have. I'll read off these rushing stats here. So Leonard Fournette has been really good the last previous 2 seasons for the Buccaneers. And his stats are kind of down this season. So Leonard Fournette has played in 10 games, and he has 135 attempts for 462 yards for only a 3.4 yard average, a long of 17, with 3 touchdowns, which that's only 46.2 yards a game. He has no fumbles, which that's nice. I wish I could say that about Alvin Kamara, who has like 4 of them. So that would be nice. And then Rashard White, I think that's their rookie. They may have drafted like in the 3rd round or something. He has 74 attempts for 286 yards for a 3.9 yard average. So his average per rush is, I wouldn't say significantly higher, but it's a little bit better. It's around that mark that you want to hit, which is around at least 4 yards a carry. And he has a long of 35, which that's a more explosive run, and two big runs, which I think big runs are 20 yards or more. He has 1 touchdown for 26 yards a game, and no fumbles. No fumbles would be nice. I think Mark Ingram may have 2. I think Mark Ingram has 2 fumbles this year, both lost. Alvin Kamara has 4 fumbles this year, both lost. Just bad luck. I think more than anything, the Saints have just had bad luck this year. It's one thing to fumble, but it's another to lose them all. It's just bad luck. And their other rushers here are Julio Jones and Keyshawn Vaughn, but they didn't really pick up very many yards off of what they rushed for. Julio Jones only carried it 4 times for 32 yards, and Keyshawn Vaughn only carried it 8 times for 21 yards. So that's nothing to get too excited about. And then we have Mike Evans here. We have the receivers here, and we have our favorite guy here, Mike Evans. He's on an very impressive streak of 1,000-yard seasons. I think he's had like 8 in a row, 8 or 9 seasons in a row of 1,000 yards. And I think he's probably on pace to do it again, with already 700 yards this season. Played in just 10 games, but we'll read off our favorite guy, Marshawn Lattimore's son, Mike Evans. So Mike Evans has 51 receptions for 85 off of 85 targets for 702 yards. That's a 13.8 yard average, 3 touchdowns, 51 yard long, 12 big catches, 70. That's 70.2 yard average. So it keeps that up and stays healthy. That's definitely enough per game to topple 1,000 yards in the season. He has 137 yards after catch. That's not really that much, but then we have Chris Godwin, who's coming back from that terrible knee injury that everyone tries to say PJ Williams did on purpose, but I don't really agree with that. I don't think there was any maliciousness, but he's come back and been decent, decent. I guess he's missed 2 games or so, but he's been decent. And over the last couple of games or so, you can kind of see that his explosiveness has kind of come back. But let's see what Chris Godwin has done. He's had actually more catches, yeah, more catches than Mike Evans in only the 9 games that he's played in. That's a little surprising. 60 receptions off of 86 targets, so off of only one more target than Mike Evans, and for 585 yards, 9.8 yards in it, yards a catch, two touchdowns, 44 yards long, 7 big plays, 65 yards a game, and 299 yards after the catch. So that's pretty impressive. Then we have Leonard Fournette, which that's surprising that he's such a great receiving back, honestly. My memory serves me right. He wasn't much of a receiving back really at LSU, but and even in his like couple seasons and with the Jaguars, he had a lot of catches. I think there was one season where he had like 70 or almost 80 catches with the Jaguars, and then of course he's come over and played with the Buccaneers and played with Tom Brady and been a really good receiving outlet for him. But he's already has 43 catches off 50 targets, so almost catching like every single thing thrown to him for 315 yards, 7.3 yards a catch, 3 touchdowns, 25-yard long, 2 big plays, 31.5 yards a game, 358 yards after the catch. So I don't know how that works exactly. That's kind of interesting how that works. That he has more yards after the catch than he actually has total yards. So I guess he loses yards sometimes by catching yards behind the line of scrimmage on screens and things like that. So, but yeah, he's been almost as productive through the air catching passes as he has been on the ground. And then Chad Otto has 26 catches off of tight end. Chad Otto has 26 receptions off of 35 targets for 281 yards, 10.8 yards a catch, 1 touchdown, 35-yard long, 3 big plays, 28.1 yards an average, 118 yards after the catch. Russell Gage, 28 catches off of 40 targets, 231 yards, 8 yards a catch, 1 touchdown, 20 long, 1 big play, 33 yards a game, 1 fumble, one fumble lost, 94 yards after the catch. And then this is a player that was really interesting going into this game that I'm surprised a lot of people thought put a lot of stock into, because I already knew that he's kind of injured and washed, but that's Julio Jones. And then when he ended up getting hurt and hardly able to play. I'm surprised people were actually surprised by it. But Julio Jones has only played in 6 games so far, which I'm just not even surprised by that. He's like constantly dealing with like a hamstring or an ankle injury ever since like its last couple of years in Atlanta. And he only has 14 catches off of 25 targets for 218 yards. He has a big average yards per catch. It's 15.6 yards a catch, 2 touchdowns, a 48-yard long, 3 big plays, 36.3 yards a game, and 86 yards after the catch. So I mean, when he's healthy, he can still make big plays. But that's the thing; he's hardly ever healthy at this point in his career. So I mean, the Buccaneers, they still can make big plays through the air. They just kind of have a little bit of trouble running the ball. In 11 games, they've only amassed about 803 yards on the ground, and have only have 4 rushing touchdowns. So they're just not really that impressive on the ground. So I think that's kind of been the big thing that's hampered them. And then their defense is kind of taken a step back from what it's been the last couple of years as well. But Devin White is their leading tackler. He has 89 total tackles, 55 solo, 34 assists, and he's kind of similar with the amount of sacks that he has this year, kind of similar in that way of Demario Davis. He has 5.5 with 40 yards lost off of that, with 8 tackles for loss, 5 pass deflections, and 2 forced fumbles. That's something the Saints however, have not been able to do, is force any turnovers. Then you have Lavonte David as their second leading tackler with 78 total tackles, 47 solo, 31 assist, 1 sack, 8 yards lost off of that, 4 tackles for loss, 4 pass deflections, and he has no forced fumbles or any recovered. Antonio Winfield Jr. has 51 total tackles, 42 solo, and 9 assists. He actually has 3 sacks for 21 yards lost off of that, 6 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, or 2 pass deflections, 1 interception. With 15 yards returned and a forced fumble. Then you have looks like their leading interceptor on the year is Jamel Dean, who has 48 tackles on the season, 39 solo, 9 assists, 1 tackle for loss, and he has 6 interceptions on the season. There, I'm reading this. Yeah, that's pass deflections. He has 6 pass deflections and 2 interceptions, and 24 yards returned, interception return yards. And then this is Mike Evans, one of their other safeties that's out. with injury, probably going to be out with injury. So that's reading off their two safeties, Antonio Winfield Jr. and here's Mike Edwards, who has 64 total tackles, 38 solo, 26 assists, 1 sack, 5 yards lost off of that, 2 total tackles for loss, 3 pass deflections, 2 interceptions, 68 return yards off of that, one pick six as well. We have Sean Murphy Bunting down here, who's been hurt a good portion of the season. He's only played in 8 games this season, so he's been hurt a good portion of the season, regardless of him being hurt for possibly this game. He only has 6 total tackles, 11 solo, 6 assists, but he has 1 tackle for loss, 1 pass deflection, but he has an interception even with only playing in that little bit of time this season. That shows you how much more turnovers this Buccaneers defense is getting than the Saints, because the only player that has any interceptions on the Saints only have 2 interceptions all season, and that's both of those 2 are from Tyrann Mathieu. There's several players on the Bucs that have interceptions, even multiple, and that's Murphy Bunting has 1 with 33 yards returning off of it. And this is a player that's been playing any games that I've ever watched of the Buccaneers this year. It's amazing that a nose tackle like Vita Vea is the leading sacker for the Buccaneers. He has 28 total tackles, 13 solo, 15 assists, but he has 6.5 sacks for 46 yards lost off of that. And 6 tackles for loss, and a forced fumble, I believe. Yeah, and a forced fumble. So those are some of the players to watch out for in this game. And then I think Shaquille Barrett's still hurt. That's a big name. He's out for this game because he's hurt. I think he tore his Achilles or tore his ACL, so don't have to worry about Shaquille Barrett. But yeah, that's but they're still, even with them having not played up to their standard over the last couple of years, they're still big time superstars on that defense to watch out for. And their offense has not been playing up to probably Tom Brady's snuff, but they can still put up points. And if they can ever figure out their running game, which the Saints have been a get-right team for a lot of teams, especially in that category, it could get interesting. But for me, I would really like it if the Saints could win this game, just because it would be awesome for the Saints to draw closer to possibly being able to win the NFC South and get closer to tying the records, getting 5 wins, pulling closer to getting to 500, and then just being kind of not necessarily in the catbird seat, but just being feeling comfortable, at least going into your bye week, and then just being able to enjoy that win over the Bucs for 2 weeks, and just being able to enjoy a good win for your bye week. And that might be the last time that the Saints and Saints fans get to enjoy themselves that might be the last like real happy time in the season until basically the season's over. So it would be really nice if the Saints could win that game, and that may be also like the last time that the Saints fans and stuff feel as if we still got a shot for this, and to be able to enjoy that for 2 weeks would really be nice. It would really be nice. So this out of every game that the Saints have left, I would really like it if they could win this. So on to hot takes. I got a couple hot takes. I got a couple hot take picks, and I got two of them. And hopefully they maybe kind of cancel each other out, is kind of what I'm looking at here. And the first one is I got Andy Dalton on here, and is it good or is it bad? And I think it's bad. I think it's bad because he's played pretty well, pretty decent the last couple games. He's played clean. He's played clean. I won't because he played well enough. He played good enough. He played pretty good against the Rams, and then he played clean. I guess he played clean enough for them actually to win against the 49ers, but other players didn't do enough in that game for them to win. Alvin Kamara fumbling twice, Will Lutz missing a kick, like things like that were not good enough. Juwan Johnson dropping a pass in the end zone, uh, Taysom Hill having a pass bounce off his face mask. Those players, but have those players catch those passes, have those players not fumble. Because I mean, he still completed what his average 18 passes for 200 yards. You really can't ask for much more than that out of Andy Dalton. But you're probably asking, what am I trying to get to? Well, in those games, he was clean. He was clean. He's been clean for two games in a row. And by clean, I mean he hasn't turned it over. He hasn't turned it over in 2 weeks. 2 weeks he hasn't fumbled. He hasn't thrown an interception. And I don't think that's going to happen in three games in a row. And I just kind of listed off some players for the Buccaneers uh, that have had some interceptions. Well, I guess I should kind of be taking that back because I think three-fourths of those players that I listed off that had those multiple interceptions probably won't be playing. But still, no, null and void that I said that. But still, Andy Dalton, I think his luck on that him having been clean is probably gonna run out. And I think this is maybe the third strike, you're out kind of game. I think he's gonna throw an interception probably in this game. I just don't see him playing a no turnover type of game for 3 games in a row. But hopefully, um, Marshawn Lattimore can bail him out with hopefully, on top of that, hopefully Marshawn Lattimore actually plays. And so in Marshawn Lattimore's first game back, and I don't even know when, I guess that was the Seattle game when he broke 2 ribs and lacerated a kidney. So hopefully, if he actually plays, I'm going to say that Lattimore gets his first interception of the season. But that's all stipulations. There's stipulations, I suppose, on that hot take. So I guess that's kind of what makes it a hot take, I guess, because there's stipulations behind it. So those are my two hot takes, that Andy Dalton's luck runs out and he throws an interception, but Lattimore somehow balance it out, actually plays in this game, and he gets an interception, his first interception of the season, and finally another player besides the Honey Badger gets an interception, and besides Andy Dalton having three clean games, the Saints get their third interception of the season. So now on to the score of this game, and I was just talking about how I want the Saints to win this game so bad. It would just be so amazing. It would give me, other fans, other Hoodats out there 2 weeks to celebrate, 2 weeks to enjoy the win over the Buccaneers, enjoy the win over Tom Brady, maybe the last win over Tom Brady. Enjoy the fact that we're not going to get swept by the Buccaneers, and know that we got to beat the Panthers so we don't get swept by the Panthers. Won't have to worry about getting swept by any team in the NFC South this year, and we'll have at least a little glimmer of hope that we still have a chance to win the NFC South. We'll all that we'll get to enjoy that for two more weeks before maybe it comes all crashing down again. But I just me saying that, we just have to win this game for that all that to come true. And so because of that, I got a feeling that this season just it can't be over with this game. And I feel the Saints are gonna come out, and that this may be a game where they're maybe motivated like they were when they played the Raiders or something, or just they always play the Buccaneers as hard as any team. Like this, don't really like saying like the Buccaneers are like their new number one rival, like they have their biggest rival are the Buccaneers now, because like any real Houdat knows that their real number one rival is the Falcons. Like honestly, they probably have a bigger rival going on now with probably the Vikings or the Los Angeles Rams or the Cowboys more than they do the Buccaneers. But for some weird reason right now, the Saints play some of their best football when they play the Buccaneers. They get up for the Buccaneers more than any team right now. It seems like the defensive line gets up and wants to knock Tom Brady around. So I think they're going to come with it in this game. So I'm going to pick the Saints to win this game 19-17. So even though this is going to be one of those games, weird games, it's going to be a weird score. Even though the Buccaneers are going to score the 2 touchdowns, they're going to score the 2 touchdowns and 2 touchdowns and a field goal. The Saints aren't even going to get multiple touchdowns in this game. They're actually only going to get 1 touchdown, and they're going to end up relying on Will Lutz. Hopefully, Will Lutz may end up being the player of the game. Will Lutz is going to need to have a bounce back game after missing that 46-yarder against the 49ers. So Will Lutz will be kicking 4 field goals in this game. So this may be a scary game where it looks like at some point when the Buccaneers score their second touchdown that the Saints are just settling for field goals, and we're thinking when you settle for field goals and the other team's getting touchdowns that you're going to lose, and the Saints just keep not getting much on offense. They're settling for field goals, and we're thinking the Buccaneers are getting too many bites of the apple, but somehow the Saints end up playing just well enough and finishing it out with a field goal, maybe a game winning, game sealing field goal. So, and Saints fans, we go into the bye and the 2 weeks feeling amazing. That's what I think is going to happen in this game, and the Saints are going to win 19-17. So I think that's all I have for you. So who dat? And can I get a check, please?